Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to Scott Pilgrim Miniatures Part 3. So in Part 1, we went over the core game with Scott and the gang in the band versus Patel, how to play the game, and the basics of what each of their boards and item cards do. In Part 2, we went over the second two X's, Lucas Lee and Todd Ingram, with all their venues, their boards, what they all do. So now in Part 3 here, we're going to hit the last three X's. So we're going to start off, we're just going to hop right in and jump into Roxie Richter. So there will be links in the description for those two other videos, as well as a third video that is just showing off all the components, where I actually go through and really show off all the different miniatures, the boards, the items, and stuff a little bit better, whereas these videos I'm showing off the actual character boards in more detail. Alright, so our first X in this one is Roxie Richter. Alright, so Roxie actually comes with no extra board, but she does have some extra couple item cards and some new characters. Then basically everything's the same. Good guys win if you knock out Roxie, bad guys win if you're knocked out. So playing against her, pick any venue board, set it up however you want. So I switched back to the Rocket, just because the last one I would have had out would have been Lee's Palace, which is all black and white checkerboards. The Rocket's a little bit easier to see things on, I think, for showing off for a video at least. So playing with two players, one person plays as Ramona, Subspace Dater, Scott Pilgrim, or both, and the other player plays as Roxie Richter. So now you can play this as either Ramona versus Roxie, Scott versus Roxie, or the two of them versus Roxie, depending on how you want to play it. If you're playing with three players, one person takes Ramona, one takes Scott, one takes Roxie. Set aside the Power of Love item card. It says if you have the Todd Ingram expansion, which has the hammer symbol, set aside the 1-up card as well, and then shuffle the rest of the cards from this expansion into the main deck. Good guys on one side, bad guys on the other. Bad guys place 3 subspace door tokens. Any empty 3 spaces does not contain a character, object, or interior wall. So we'll go over them in just a moment. Set the character's health dials, XP, and all your different other items set aside. Then both players here roll 3 yellow and 2 blue dice, so it goes back to fairly normal. So, subspace token doors. Roxie borrowing 3 subspace tokens. She places around the venue at the start of the battle. Whenever a character enters a space with a token, they immediately place themselves on any space adjacent to another token door, not costing additional movement space. It's sort of like Lucas Lee can grind across all the boards. These basically let you teleport. They immediately place themselves on any space adjacent to any other subspace door. So basically they pop out of the X door. Okay, that explains. So use 3 spaces. So she spent 1 space to move on the door, and then she actually pops out here. She got 2 and then 3. You just basically step on one door, then you move to the next door, and then you continue your movement from there. So that's kind of cool. We'll take a little bit of a look at those in just a sec. Any other characters, however, a character is forced to enter them by the door, such as pushing, knockback, or abilities, the player forces them, chooses which space they move through. So if you knock someone through a door, you can move them where you want. Objects thrown through a space act the same way. Things forced to travel through a door keep traveling the same direction when they entered that space. So if you throw it at an angle, it has to keep going in an angle. If you choose to move, you can kind of move off whatever direction you would like. Tokens can be grabbed and thrown like objects, but do not take damage. It cannot be destroyed. Any character can pick up, throw, place a door token. When thrown, they deal 1 damage and 1 knockback, but do not cause the character to teleport. While off the venue board, they cannot be teleported or used to teleport. So something remove them. When a character holds a door, it cannot be used to teleport anything. In a player's turn, they must throw the door. They're still carrying those. They can also choose to place it in a subsequent space. Alright, so we are going to have our brand new subspace Roxie, or it's not Roxie, Ramona. We're also gonna have Scott, and then we'll have Roxie there. Now they normally start back behind the lines. I just put them in the middle. When we get these 3 subspace token doors, which at the beginning of the game, Roxie can place wherever she wants. So the very simple way of explaining it is she moves, she does 3 movement, she does 1, 2, she goes to this one, and now she can move 3 to move next to Ramona. If you knock something through there, so if she was standing next to this table, if she grabbed this table and threw it, and she threw it this direction, it would come out this way. But now since there's no one in line there, it wouldn't hit them. Now, she could potentially do this if Ramona was there. If she picked up this table and threw it into the door this way, it could come out and hit her from behind. So it's kind of a neat idea. And the same idea as if you knock the character into it, you can do it. Plus, you can pick them up and move them around. So this could definitely be a very interesting mechanic for the game. Again, one of the things also could be very different or interesting if you combine this with other X's. Imagine Mathew, Patel's hipster chicks teleporting to different spots, even more movement. Lucas Lee grinding an object into a subspace door or out of a subspace door. Different things like that could be very interesting. Yeah, so that's the essentials there. So let's take a look at our 2 characters and what they can do. So we'll look at Roxie first, since she's the Evil Ex. She's out one of the things I kind of loved about in the movies. I don't remember if they said it as much in the manga. I have to reread it. But I know, like in the movie, she kept referring to him. Scott kept referring to them as, "Oh, your evil ex-boyfriends," and Ramona would always correct him and say, "My evil exes." So that was always funny. Alright, so she's the one that taught Ramona about subspace skating. Just kind of cool. So she has Roller Girl, gains 1 movement bonus, 2 guys spent per movement. Heart Seal 2, and any guy can be rolled for 2 speed. And then she has starting abilities. She has Flying Sidekick, deal 2 damage and 2 knockback to any good guy within sight within 3 spaces, and Ninja Strike, deal 2 damage to each adjacent good guy. So she wants to get moving around to do this extra damage. Advanced abilities, draw your weapon. 3 damage and 1 knockback to an adjacent good guy. Subspace Sneak Attack. Place yourself adjacent to any good guy within 5 spaces, then deal 2 damage and 2 knockback to them. And Skate Hack Slash. Move up to 5 spaces, deal 3 damage to a good guy in sight with 2 spaces. And then her combo is Subspace Drop. Deal 3 damage to any good guy, then take them and place them in any space. So she literally just smacks them and then puts them wherever she wants. So it's she's like a teleporting ninja. So that's definitely cool. So like she's not like super herself, doesn't have any super great mechanics. I don't want to say great, like super spectacular, but she's using them doors, being utilized them very properly. She can get some good damage off, especially since she has lots of movement, so she can get to them doors or teleport from one door to another door very fast and move around. Then we have a new Ramona. So we have a Subspace Skater up here, as opposed to the base game, which is Ninja Delivery Girl. Although she has the same booster stuff on the side, but she has starting abilities. Eat My Dust. Move up to 5 spaces, deal 1 damage and 1 knockback to each bad guy you move adjacent to at least once, and Blade Kick. Reroll your team's guys, deal 1 damage to adjacent bad guy and deal 1 damage per guts rolled. Ninja Strike. Deal 3 damage and 1 knockback to each bad guy within 2 spaces. Titanium Baseball Bat. Deal 2 damage to any bad guy in sight within 2 spaces. 1 damage if the bad guy has blonde hair. That is funny. Trying to think of which other character has blonde hair. The only other one would be technically Todd. This is like vegan Super Saiyan hair. That's very funny. Then Love Cap. Move up to 3 spaces, deal 3 damage to each bad guy you move adjacent to at least once. And then Subspace Starbag for her combo, grab an object from the board and throw it from your space, dealing 3 damage instead of 1. That's kind of cool. You also notice that her and Roxie here have a lot of very similar type of abilities. You can see all of their dice are the exact same. And you kind of draw some parallels. So we have Ninja Strike, Dryer Weapon. Both deal 3 damage to 1. Just Roxie doesn't need to be within 2 spaces. Their middle attack, both do 2 damage with different other little effects. And then their last one also does 3 damage to each and moves them. But they do a little bit differently. And their bottom one also does something about dealing damage to a character for 3. So they have very close type of abilities, not the exact same, but definitely interesting. Alright, so let's look at our item cards for this set. We'll adjust our camera back down here. We have Cheat Code Forest Elf. Move 1 good guy to any space, then discard this card. We have an XP boost. We've seen this in the base game. Level up 1 good guy, then discard this card. Now, this would definitely be an interesting thing to do with when you're mixing all the sets together, because you'll get more of these. We have the Kitty of Distraction. This kitty springs into cuteness action. Everyone wants to pet it. Choose a space within 5 spaces. Take each bad guy and place them on a space adjacent to the chosen space. And then the last card we get is the Power of Love Sword. Scott earned the Power of Love. Scott starts with this item when facing Roxie, Richter, the Katayanagi twins, or Gideon Graves. Well equipped, you gain the following abilities. Spend 2 punches to deal 3 damage and 1 knockback to an adjacent bad guy and gain 1 damage. Now again, this is the thing, like, story-wise, they're going to start with these cards next to them, but you can always just shuffle them in and use them as regular abilities. You can give them to anybody and things like that. It's your game. Do what you want to do. Alright, so the last thing we have for this expansion is Wallace Wells. It says Wallace Wells Words of Encouragement. So Wallace Wells is not known for his fighting skills, but he's always there for Scott. Wallace does not participate in battles, but sits on the sidelines with jokes and half-hearted, possibly unhelpful words of encouragement. So it says, place him beside the venue board, shuffle the 10 Wallace cards next to him, and leaving room for their discard. Once per good guy turn, draw a top card of Wallace Wells' deck, read it aloud, then place in a discard. Has no effect on the battle. Runs out of games, return Wallace to the box. That was taking too long, and Wallace has left the venue. So yeah, it's kind of fun. You get a little miniature Wallace Wells figure here, and he just kind of sits off to the side, and then you get a special deck of Wallace Wells cards. So we're gonna go through these really quick. Just watch out, it's that one guy. That's a new personal best, Scott. Evil, enemy, fight, remember. Why are you looking at me? You're such a tool, Scott. New text from Wallace Wells. Hey, buddy, I'm a drunk for you. You equal Scott. This place is amazing. Better comeback, Scott. Scott, watch out. I think that guy might be Gideon. And, hey, apparently you're not dead. So, just a fun little extra expansion thing. It's one of the things I was thinking, like, it'd be more interesting if other games included just weird extra cards like this. They don't do anything. You don't have to play as them. But they're kind of neat little things. This would also be a really fun thing to add for, like, an expansion set, if they ever made, like, maybe, like, another expansion for this game. I don't think they're ever planning to. It's been out for a while. But this would definitely be one of the things I love to see. I love to see alternate character art, cards, character figures, maybe some different versions of other characters, instead of having just Ramona's being the duplicate. But, add some more Wallace cards, or add, some of the other characters that, shout stuff from behind, and then mix and match them together. That'd be kind of fun as well. Alright, so that's what we got for this expansion. Alright, our next Battle of Evil Exes is the Katayanagi twins. This is X's 5 and 6. So yeah, they get their player boards, they get their item cards, and they actually get 4 miniatures. So this is kind of cool. This has a very different feel as well. That's what's great about every single X has a different feel. So you battle in this, you're going to play with Scott, Ramona, the subspace skater, which we just showed off in the Roxie set, as well as 2 other friends that team up against their robots. So again, this is the general setup they want you to do. So they don't have a venue, much like Roxie didn't. So again, you can pick, so I can get this to focus, you can pick anything. Again, I just did the rocket because it's a little bit easier right now to show everything off. But you could pick, Casa Loma if you want to have an outside battle. You could pick Lee's Palace if you want an inside battle. But you're supposed to, again, initially set it up with all them things. So there's that big difference is playing this board, or even the same thing with like Roxie with her warp portals, and like when you get to the twins' special ability. Big open area like the rocket is going to play very differently than Lee's Palace with all the walls built in there. Because then you have to dodge around and do extra damage to them. So it's going to play very different. Also, just as a funny note here, because I can pick Scott and Ramona, I can pick 2 other people. We picked Knives Chow, because as of all the rest of them, we've just been using the band. So I'm like, yeah, let's throw Knives in there. And technically, we can also now use Envy, because she does have a hero board. Now, again, if you're trying to play more canonically, you probably just use the other 2 members of the band, because this would have been like during the Battle of the Bands thing, but that's what it is. And Kyle and Ken actually have neat little miniatures, because their hands kind of link together. They kind of hold hands. Now, you notice I only have 2 of the miniatures on there, and we'll explain why. So it's basically saying set up the board, la-di-da. 2 players, 1 player plays the good guys, 1 player plays the bad guys. 3 players, 1 player plays Scott and Ramona, the other player plays the other 2 good guys, someone plays the bad guys. And if you're playing 4 players, 1 player will play good guys, 2 good guys, 1 will play the other 2, 1 plays Ken and Kyle Katayanagi, and the other one will play the Robot 1 and Super Robot. So basically, if you're playing 2 players, each player plays a team. If you're playing 4 players, each player gets to play 2 characters. And then if you're playing 3 players instead, kind of mix and match it. In addition, if you have the Roxie Richter expansion, set aside the Power of Love sword. Equip it. If you have the Todd Ingram expansion, set aside the 1-up item card. Then shuffle the other 33 regular cards into 4 from this set, and each character draw 4 cards. Place the good guys anywhere behind the regular starting line. Ken and Katayanagi behind the regular starting line. Now, this is why I didn't place these guys yet. So it says, place Robot 1 and Super Robot anywhere on the board that is not behind the good guys starting line. So this is, again, a little bit different setup as well. So they can place these guys wherever they want to kind of start. I almost wish it was more of a, after, like, turn 2 or turn 3, they dropped in. And then they could land anywhere, because they like, disrupt something. Even if it's on turn 2, like, because then you don't know where you're going to be. But right now, it's like, gotta put them close up, so they can attack right away. Gotta put them far away, so they can help defend my team. Who knows? Good, bad guys are going to go first, so it doesn't matter, right? Then we have the health setup, of course. Twins have 30, robots have 20, and the good guys have based on how many players there are. So playing against them, we both have 3 yellow and 2 blue guys, like usual. So now the twins have a couple of special abilities. On the bad guys' turn, they can either activate the Katayanagi twins or the robots. So I'm going to jump into their boards before, and kind of explain some of the rules there. So we're going to slide this back. So what we have here is the Katayanagi twins boards. And what they do is they share a board. So that's why you play as one team or the other. And why you move, you either choose one or the other. And then we have the robots, which also share a board. So we don't have 4 separate boards. We technically have 4 miniatures, but we only have 2 different characters. But they can all move independently of each other. So that's kind of interesting. So the twins also have a special ability here. It says when the twins are linked, which means if they're standing next to each other, they can use the same ability, dealing double damage. Their hearts are wild, and any 2 dice can be spent. So, just kind of going over that thing, it says they have shared XP and health, so if one twin is damaged, they both take the damage. So if Ken takes 3 and Kyle takes 2, they combined take a total of 5 damage. But then their twin link ability. It says when they're touching spaces adjacent and not diagonal, so left or right, up, down, they are twin linked. If either twin is pushed or knocked back, immediately stop being twin linked. They have to move. They'll have to move to touching space to turn twin link on again. Alright, so what's twin link do for them though? This is actually pretty a neat mechanic. Well, twin link, they move as one and receive damage as one. As long as there's no objects or walls in the way, they move side by side the same number of spaces, but you don't have to spend dice of one of their moves. So basically they essentially become one model, or one miniature. They move together. If something hits them, it's not going to do damage to both of them. So like, in this example, it does 3 and 5. Now if they're standing next to each other and Ramona did her strike, she would only do 3 damage, because she wouldn't hit both of them. She'd hit them as a group. So it says when they're adjacent, use jump kick, move forward 3 spaces. Since it was one is adjacent to Scott, they both deal 2 damage to him, for a total of 4 damage. So now, although they only take damage per one, when they do damage as both of them. So if their normal damage would do 2 damage, they do 4. So they become incredibly powerful when they're together, because they get to move together, they get to do damage together. While twinning, each figure still interacts with things on the board. So, example, neither can move through an interior wall, and each one pushes objects and characters they move into. Anytime on the bad guy's turn, continue to break their twin links and resume using individual characters. So sometimes it might make sense to spread them out. Sometimes it might make sense to keep them together. If there's, like Lee's Palace, on the back side, there's only that one tiny walkway. So they could use it, but they have to almost turn sideways and then go through that direction, which then, might not be as effective as maybe them just splitting up. And then the robots have a very similar idea. They share their health and XP when either is damaged or health. When robots spend 1 speed to move, it gives them +1 speed of movement. So they don't have linked abilities like these guys do, but they do have shared health and abilities. Alright, so their Katayanagi twin starter abilities are jump kick, move 3 spaces, and deal 2 damage to an adjacent bad guy. And since if they're together with the twin link, it gives them an extra full, 3 spaces around the character to be adjacent to. Sonic Punch, move in a straight line until you reach a wall or a space with a character or object. Deal 3 damage to each good guy you moved adjacent to. Advanced abilities, Hurricane Kick, deal 3 damage and 1 knockback to each adjacent good guy. Uppercut, deal 2 damage and 5 knockback to each adjacent good guy. And Simul Punch, move in a straight line until you reach a wall or a space with a character, then deal 4 damage and 2 knockback to an adjacent good guy. And their combo is Ultra Hurricane Kick. Deal 3 damage to each good guy in sight within 3 spaces, then reroll your team's dice. For each foot roll, move up to 2 spaces. So definitely interesting set of characters. Their overall abilities aren't necessarily super powerful, but again, like when they're next to each other, they're gonna expand their adjacencies. So a lot of their attacks involve being next to guys. It's gonna give them a chance to hit more than one guy, because now instead of only having the typical 9 spaces around one character, it gets expanded an additional 3 on the outside. Definitely interesting. Then the robots. They don't have a combo ability. And they have a little less abilities, but they're still there to help out. So they have Flying Fist. Deal 2 damage and 1 knockback to any good guy in sight within 3 spaces. That's what the little robot can do. So he can just jump up and he can't gain any extra abilities. And then the super robot can deal 3 damage with Fist Slam. Deal 3 damage and 1 knockback to each adjacent good guy. And then he can advance to Foot Smash. Deal 3 damage to any good guy within 2 spaces. Or Double Fist Pulverizer. Deal 4 damage to any good guy within 2 spaces. Because he's, so big. Yeah, definitely a neat side of things. They're going to share health, but they're going to be spreading around the board. So this can easily go from essentially fighting, 3 characters, the twins Link to these 2 robots to fighting 4. Because the twins can separate out. These guys can be doing different stuff. They can always use their basic abilities as well. So if depending on which guy you have and what you have where, they can do some good damage. But definitely makes a very interesting thing. But you have to choose one or the other during your turn on which one you're going to use. Yeah, so very, very interesting there. So we also have the 1-up card. Can be used to bring 1 good guy back to health. This starts in an empty space with 10 health. No items, except they are automatically equipped to a character such as Scott's Power Glove, then discarded. So good guys start with this, and this is going to help just, soften that blow a little bit. Then the last thing we have to show off for these characters are their item cards. Then we'll head to the final battle, the boss battle, as it were. Alright, so we have the Cage of Minimal Holding. It says, place this card on an adjacent bad guy. That bad guy cannot use abilities except to deal damage to this card. Turn this card when the bad guy deals damage to this card the first time, and discard it the second time. So it kind of works like reverse armor. Like, you have armor to help protect you. This will stop them from doing their abilities. Birthday Cake. It's a celebration. Level up all good guys when discard this card. That's a very cool one to have. Tim's Cell Phone of Power. Take any number of good guys, place each in a space adjacent to you, then discard this. I love that there's a card version of her combo ability. I wish I had more of them like that. Like, the item cards that kind of maybe represented different characters' abilities. Because you could almost use them as saying, like, Tim's not in this battle, but, like, hey, she's helping out, type of idea. Robot Fist of Smashing. That's a big fist. Well-equipped, deal double damage when you use the punch or kick basic ability. Again, some of these are really cool. I like to, if like you're buying separate expansions, like you had to buy it all separately, it'd be kind of, wonder if like, hey, would it be worth buying some of these for the venue or for this? Like, if you're just, like, which one would you choose in what order? Like, I'm going to buy all of them, but I can only afford one per month. So, like, which one would you buy first? Like, would you buy one with a venue first? Would you buy this one? Because the item cards are pretty cool. It's a very interesting thing to think about. Alright, so we're going to head into the final battle. Alright, for our final expansion, the Gideon Graves, the Last X. We're going to get new venues, new items, new item cards, new objects, I guess. Some new dice, tokens, and some new miniatures. So again, overview. Beat Gideon. Basically that. Our setup is use the Chaos Theater board. In the middle, and put it in the middle of the table. I don't know, put it on the side of the table. Rise your stage box, place all the different objects. It'll tell you where to go. By default, good guys play 2 characters, but they can choose a different number if they wish. So here's how it's saying. It says, if you're starting 2 players, they're telling you use Ramona Flowers, Won't Back Down. So a new version of Ramona, and Scott. Because again, we're playing through the story. They're the 2 main characters. 3 player, 1 player plays as Scott, 1 plays as Ramona, 1 plays as Gideon. If as 4 players, 1 plays as Scott, 1 plays as Ramona, 1 plays as Gideon, and the other will play as Super Gideon, which is a different form of him which you transform into. This is kind of neat, because that way you're not always playing actively, but you can switch back and forth. Gives your 4th player something to do. So I said, the Power of Understanding sword If Scott Pilgrim's in play, equip it to him, set aside Power of Love. If Ramona's in play, equip it to her. If you have the Todd Ingram, put aside the 1-up, then shuffle the 6 new cards with the 33 remaining from the core set. So the miniature are going to go in specific spots on the board. Says if you use the Chaos Speaker venue but choose not to face an opponent other than Gideon, Graves, place the good guys on their regular starting spots, and the bad guys on their regular starting spots. Gideon has 30 health, Super Gideon has 20, and your characters have that much depending on who you decide to play as. Alright, so we're going to take a look at that board quick. Alright, if my camera wants to zoom again. Alright, so this is definitely a neat, different setup as well. And again, one thing I love, the venues are just as important as the characters in the game. So, in here, they're going to want Gideon kind of hiding back here, and Scott and Ramona down there. And they have their pictures on the board to show them where they go. But if you're playing a regular game, they'd start back on the outside like normal. So there's definitely some. We have our tables, our stools. We have our tables and stools like we normally do. Have some speakers back there behind Gideon. But then we have these purple walls, which work just like the brown walls from Lee's Palace in the Todd Ingram expansion. Just they're purple. You knock guys into them, they take damage, they disappear. Or you have to hit it with something to get rid of it. But it does actually, again, it makes the very interesting way to go around everything. Because we were starting off back here, now you have to either get rid of one of these or go all the way around. Even right there, there's only one spot to get in there to fight Gideon. And he goes first, so he can either choose to run out in between them, or he could choose to go around the outsides. But he does have speakers and stuff in the way, and a table, so he's going to have to go through these objects or over these objects to get around them. But he can sneak attack around one side or the other. It's very interesting. Then there's the riser on the far corner over there, which is just something you can climb up on. In my one content video where I'm just showing off all this stuff, in this stage I put the band up there, kind of like simulate during this battle they were kind of sitting up there, but then putting those extra characters there almost eliminates that as being a spot characters can go. The other two big things you're going to notice are the go-go cages and the item spots. The item spots are the blue ones around the go-go cages. Again, very different than the Rocket, where it's down the center. Lee's Palace, where it's underneath certain tables spread around. Or the Castle Loma, where it's underneath the tiles. So these are kind of available, but they're just spread out a little bit. Cool, so we got that. We also have the Super Gideon miniature, which will stick off to the side. We'll go over him when we get there. Alright, so playing against Gideon, bad guys roll 3 purple guys and 2 blue guys, and the good guys roll 3 yellow guys. So we have 3 brand new purple guys to use, which are going to have his glow symbol on there, which is specific to him, much like Todd's green vegan dice and Mathew Patel's red or orange magic dice. Alright, so in the side of the menu you have the interior walls, which we already went over, so I'm not going to go over them again. We have the go-go cages. Now these are brand new, of course. So go-go cages take a square of 4 spaces rather than 1 space. If you throw a go-go cage, place it on the board so that one of the spaces is where it hit. You cannot place it over objects or characters except for Super Gideon. So it says if the cage hits something other than Super Gideon, it deals 1 damage. 1 damage is knocked back to the things it hits. Throwing a cage does not damage it. For example, Scott throws a go-go cage in a straight line, hits an interior wall, damaging it. The wall is removed. Scott places a cage, so 1 space is where it hit the wall. So it just moves that little bit over. You know, pretty simple. If you're using the Chaos venue board and facing X other than Gideon, the go-go cages can only be thrown twice before they are destroyed as if they were normal objects. So that's the only thing that's sort of weird, is that if you're playing with Gideon, they have to be able to stick around because they're kind of part of the boss battle, but any other stage, they're normal. If you're throwing a cage at Super Gideon, it will cover him. He cannot move, only use his abilities to damage the team. The first time he damages it, flip it over to show its damage, placing him inside. The second time, remove it. Once it escapes, he can continue by spending any unspent dice he has. He can still take damage from attacks and throwing objects, but the cage will not take damage, and he cannot transform back to Gideon. Okay, just to show that. So, the big thing is Gideon has the ability to switch back and forth. So, if you throw a cage at Super Gideon, it goes over the top of him. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit better. It's got some dark lighting on these, but you can at least see what we're talking about. So it goes on. So he has to damage. The first time he damages it, we flip it over, put it back in the same squares it was, and then now he can slide back in here. And now he's still trapped in there. Now it's showing so you know that it's been damaged once. And you can even use this same method during non-Gideon battles. If someone throws a cage the first time, then put it upside down so you know it's been damaged once in case you're, going around somewhere else. I'm just going to set that off to the side for now. Then, glow dice and tokens. Gideon Graves and Super Gideon can spend glow face on his purple guy to spend as a wild guy or recover 1 health. Each time Gideon earns 1 XP, he also gains a glow token. You can spend the tokens as if they were glow dice, so you can kind of stack these up. Because Super Gideon cannot gain XP, he can also not gain glow tokens. He can still use the dice, he can't use the tokens, however. Alright, so Gideon has 2 playboards representing his 2 forms, Gideon Graves or Super Gideon. Anytime during the battle, he'll be in one of his 2 forms, keep the matching board in front of him. Anytime during his turn, he can spend 1 glow die or token to transform to Super Gideon, remove Gideon from the board, and replace it with Super Gideon. And then one of his spaces has to be touching wherever Gideon was. And if Gideon Graves is knocked out, the battle is over. So, no big deal there. In his Super Gideon form, anytime during his turn, he can transform back into Gideon Graves. Doesn't cost anything. Remove Super Gideon from the board, placing Gideon back on there. If Super Gideon gets knocked out, he transforms back into regular Gideon and can no longer transform. So, yeah, if his big form gets knocked out, it kind of just gives him an extra health bar, if nothing else. And then when he moves, all his spaces has to move in one direction, but it has to always touch one of the 2 spots. So, like here, it's showing if he's moving with his sword hand, and that's his starting spot, and he wants to move 3 spaces, he can move each of these spaces, but he has to keep in the same pattern. So 1, 2, 3, essentially. Or he could go 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3. But he has to move so his whichever side you pick, whichever tile you pick, is the one that's being counted. So like he can't move and then be like, so he can't go 1, 2, and then if there's a table here, he can't turn and go 3. He has to go in the same pattern. So yeah, if there was a table right there, he could go 1. If he's going at an angle, he could go 1, but he can't go 2 because he can't stand halfway on a table, and then 3. He can flip 180 degrees in the same space for no cost, but turning 90 degrees spends 1 space of movement, pushing anything in the intervening space in the direction he's originally facing. So he could do this and turn and go, and wants to turn with this side, and he could rotate this way and cost 1 speed and then push that way. Then he could use his other movement speed, to move backwards, or he wants to flip around for free, and then he could go this direction. Or he could rotate back and then keep continuing down. So it's kind of an interesting mechanic. Alright, so let's look at his board quick. Well, let's look at Ramona's board first. Oops. Since we have a brand new Ramona. We have Ramona Flowers won't back down. So she, or just like all the rest of them, she has her 2 boost spots. 2s are wild, and you guys can be spent for 2 movement. She has lightning quick. Move up to 5 spaces in a straight line, deal 2 damage. To each bad guy you moved adjacent to at least once, and then leapfrog, move up to 3 spaces. Whenever you move into a space with a bad guy, you move the opposite adjacent space instead of pushing, and deal 2 damage to them. Okay, so this is kind of neat. So she moves into a space with a bad guy. So if she's moving 3 spaces, if she moves 1 space, bumps into a bad guy, then instead of pushing them back and keep going that distance, she instead, she bounces off them and goes the other direction. So she can go 1 space into them and then 2 spaces back the direction she came. It's kind of cool. Shackle Smash. Deal 3 damage, 1 knockback to any bad guy within sight within 2 spaces. Lightning Ninja Strike. Deal 3 damage to an adjacent bad guy, plus 3 per extra foot spent. Star Bag of Holding. Draw 3 item cards. Choose 2 item cards that can be thrown, and throw each of them for double damage. And then on the very bottom, she has Double Team Combo with Scott. Place Scott adjacent to Ramona. Move Scott and Ramona up to 5 spaces in the same direction. For each bad guy that Scott or Ramona move adjacent to at least once, roll your team's dice. For each guts roll, deal 2 damage to that bad guy. Yeah, this is kind of neat. So it kind of works like the Katayanagi twin. She gets to move together with him. Although it does mean it in strictest gameplay sense, it means it limits her combo if she's not playing with Scott for some reason. So if you're playing a different mode and using other different characters, then this gets very limited. Otherwise, but you could always argue, he's not in here, so I'm going to use somebody else. It's your game. Do what you want, right? Alright, then let's check Gideon's. So we have standard Gideon Graves here. Now, he does have spots on the side here that look like the booster slot, but the booster tokens are lightning. His are stars for his glow tokens. So, you can spend these tokens as glow or once per turn into Super Gideon. Whenever he earns XP, he also gains a glow token. Hearts are worth 1. Glow tokens are wilder 1. Any guy can be spent for 2 movement. Now, because this board doesn't flip over, like Envy's does, in that sense that she has a separate board, it just switches to the other Super Gideon board. Is that if he has 2 glow tokens and he uses a die to change, I would imagine he hangs on to them. And then when he changes back, he still has them. So it's not a loses them or use them or lose them type of thing. Alright, his abilities are Pummel. Reroll your team's dice. For each guts roll, deal 2 damage to an adjacent good guy. And Glow Blast. Deal 4 damage to each good guy in a straight line, stopping at the first wall or object. Glow Confusion. Push or pull any good guy up to 3 spaces in any direction. Then choose one of their starter abilities and deal its damage to them. Soul Punch. Deal 3 damage to an adjacent good guy. Then draw 3 item cards. Discard 1 item. Shuffle 1 back into the deck and throw 1 item for its damage, or 2, whichever is higher. Yeah, so it's kind of crazy because he gets rid of items. Plus he gets to shuffle 1 and throw 1. So he actually gets rid of 2 items out of the deck completely. Because the one he discards and when he throws, and he can shuffle the other one back in. So I could really, oh look, they have a 1-up coming. Let's just shuffle that one back in, or throw that. I would imagine, though, throwing the item, though, has to be one that can be thrown. Or throwed. It can be thrown. So it does have a thing here on this. He also burned a lot of item cards. More than if he stepped onto an item space. When he uses his ability to deal 3 damage to a good guy, draws 3 cards. Either he damage listed on a card to whichever is higher, then he chooses the remaining card. Okay, so it doesn't sound like it has to be one that can be thrown. But I like how it kind of mimics Ramona's ability. And then Sword Slash. When this ability is unlocked, Gideon takes Scott's Power of Understanding sword and equips it. Its ability now only affects good guys. So Gideon's kind of a crazy character because lots of his advanced abilities are all kind of based on hero stuff. Either he's stealing his weapon, he's stealing their items, or he's stealing their starter abilities. Just kind of interesting. Then his combo attack is Cryo Freeze attack. Deals 6 damage to each good guy. On the good guy's next turn, each good guy can only take 1 action. Yeah, we haven't seen anything like that either. Like, to literally stop guys from doing things. Plus 6 damage, that could be very hard. Because then you might have to spend that 1 just to get your character away or go somewhere else. Alright, so then our last character board is Super Gideon. So up there. Kind of funny at this one, it shows him like when he's still ripping the shirt, and then the other ones with his shirt off. So he just has starter abilities. He doesn't have any way to unlock them, but he gets all of them. Again, he can transform into this, back into regular Gideon for free. His starter abilities cost 1 glow, Super Sword Slash, deal 6 damage, and 1 knockback to any good guy within 3 spaces. Super Glow Gas Attack, pull each good guy within 3 spaces up to 3 spaces, and deal 6 damage to each. And Super Fist Crush, deal 8 damage to any good guy within 3 spaces. If you spend extra glow, deal 4 damage to another good guy within 3 spaces. Definitely crazy attacks. He's super powerful. Again, he only has less health, and if you can take care of him, you don't have to see him anymore. But that's the whole thing, is Gideon can on his turn decide when to flip him out, when not to. Very interesting. And there's no reason why on his turn Gideon couldn't transform, spend 1 glow token he has, transform into Super Gideon, do a bunch of attacks, and then at the end of his turn, switch back to regular Gideon, because it just says once per turn they can do it. It doesn't say once per turn total. So that way he could come in, do some attacks with all his guys, then change back, and not have to maybe worry about him dying if he has more health, if he has less health. It's very, very interesting. Also, just another thing to note on here is 4 characters that have the special dice, being Matt and Todd being the other 2. They all their abilities use their special die symbol. Gideon has a basic ability that uses any. So that's actually different. And then Sword Slash, which will obviously do different stuff as well. So he's not 100% tied into only using his special dice. Alright, then let's look at those special cards. So we have Scott's the Power of Understanding. So I like that they're green when they're supposed to be like ones that start outside the game, equipped to people. Well equipped on Scott, gain the following ability. You can spend 2 guts to deal 5 damage and 2 knockback to an adjacent bad guy. They gain 1 XP. Now this is the card that he will steal. Gideon will steal. So gives him an extra different attack to use. And then we have the Power of Love Sword for Ramona. Gain the following ability. Spend 2 fists and deal 3 damage and 1 knockback. On an adjacent bad guy, gain 1 XP. If Scott used the ability on his Power of Understanding sword this round, deal plus 3 damage. So that's definitely cool. I do want to show this off, because back in the Roxie set, we had Power of Love, which can be used on here as well. So you could have basically both have the Power of Love sword, but why not give him that one? But yeah, so this does the same damage, right? 2 fists, deal 3 damage, 1 knockback. So it's neat when Ramona gets to pick it up. She actually just uses the same exact effects. Now, the rest of the item cards they're definitely all nice to have, but they're not as cool because they're all I think they're all repeats. Almost all of them are repeats. But it's not bad. Again, you're mixing these in to get more cards in the end. So you have XP boost, level up 1 good guy, then discard this card. We have the Armor of Limited Use. These are lots of ones that are all from the base games. Now you can actually have a second copy of each. Take no damage this turn. Next time you take an ability, affects you, take no damage, and then discard it. Same thing with the Canadian Winter Helmet, has the same ability. Shield of some effectiveness, just lets you avoid 1 attack. So those 3 are all the same. 4 cards are all the same from the base game. Then we have, where did that come from? Deal 5 damage to any bad guy, then discard this card. And Liquid Courage. Next time a glow ability affects you, you take no damage. This turn and the next time after a glow ability affects you, take no damage and discard this card. So this is interesting because it's another armor card, but it's only going to work typically with Gideon. Now, this might be one where I would almost house rule it, that instead of it being Gideon's glow symbol, have it be any special guy. So this should also then work with Mathew, Patel's magic, and Todd, Ingram's vegan powers. And the only reason I would almost say that is just because that would make those cards a little bit more, the game and them a little bit more interesting. Alright. Alright, so if I look at the last little thing of the book, which is how choosing your own battles, if you want to mix and match stuff, I just went through and did a quick card count. So there are 33 cards in the base game, and then if you get all the expansion stuff, there's another 30 cards plus an additional 3 that are the green ones. So another 33, but assuming you take them out of the deck, because they don't go in there, that gives you a total of 63 cards that will be in your deck at the end. So it's actually a decent amount for all these games. Honestly, I could love to see expansions of this game, with like alternate characters and stuff like that. But I don't know if it ever sold well enough to do that. But yeah, give different versions of characters, different abilities. Lots of interesting stuff I think you could probably do. But then again, I love having more and more content for games. Alright, so we have choose your own fight. It says, basically it's when you're done. For a fair fight, set up the venues as described in the battle rules, and use a quick reference chart below. Give the appropriate amount of health to good guys and bad guys. Then head to the appropriate battle section of this rulebook for all their special setups. So if you're playing, Mathew, Patel, you have to look in the book to see how his demon hipster chicks work, or Todd, to see how his vegan powers work. Just in case you're curious how all their special abilities work. So for an unfair fight, add way too many interior walls, objects from all sets. Fight against both Katayanagi twins and Nega Scott, or maybe Mathew Patel brought along the twins robots for this battle. It might fall apart, it might just be amazing. That's one of my favorite things when a rulebook literally tells me to break the game. So here's just going to show off if you're playing these are recommended 2 to 3 players. For most of them, it's usually because they're saying one person's the bad guy, and then one player's a good guy. There's your 2 players, and a third one can be, if there's like 4 guys, it's saying, 2 or 3 guys. It lets the heroes kind of split up some of the duties. Mathew, Lucas, Todd, Lynette. I flip to that one. Of course, Roxie, Katayanagi twins and the robots, Gideon Graves, Nega Scott, just 2 players. Any hero with any health, and Nega Scott at the same health. Additional suggested fights: Knife Child versus Ramona Flowers, Ninja Delivery Girl, or Ramona Subspace Skater. Oh, I don't know why that's so hard for me. Versus MB Adams. Just 2 additional ones they mentioned. And then here's all the fantastic people that worked on it, including Brian Lee O'Malley, who of course made the story and the characters, and the game designer Erica Bodiuris. Hope I said that right. Definitely them. Renegade Game Studios, who helped make the game. I've been buying a lot of their stuff: Power Rangers, Diego, Transformers, all that cool stuff. Of course, there's our top people from there: President Scott Gata, and Director Sarah Erickson, who Senior Marketing Terry. I'm done pronouncing people's last names. So I'm going to pronounce it Liticole. I'm only saying those 3 because I know those 3 from many other different Renegade Studio Kickstarters and things like that. That's definitely awesome. And then the back, of course, has just a reminder of what you can do with different dice, different symbols, all the different expansion symbols, the different knives, the different symbols and all the different cards. The only one they don't show on here is the pause icon and armor down there. It's not used that often. So definitely a fun game. As I've been saying throughout all these videos, I could definitely see a lot more interesting things that could have been added into it, or alternate versions of characters. Because I can see like having Scott giving Nega Scott or Envy like the musical notability so they interact with the other characters differently or better. Giving just alternate abilities, alternate costumes. I get why they didn't, because this is trying to stick as close to the core as possible. But it'd be kind of neat to have like extra bonus things, and maybe it's something I'll try and create in the future. Although I say that and I never get around to doing it. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed all these videos. I'm going to try and pick up the... I can grab this. They also have the Scott Pilgrim's Precious Little Card Game, which is a deck builder, and I love deck building games. So hopefully I can pick this up when we get some more really cool Scott Pilgrim content. See you guys later. Bye.